Welcome back to the morning show here on Rise News. The Independent National Electoral Commission's postponement of the long-awaited general election by 1 week has left many Nigerians in doubt of the Commission's ability to conduct a credible election here in Nigeria. Joining us this morning to speak on the Commission's readiness for the election is INEC National Commissioner and Chairman Committee on Information and Voters Education, Festus Okoye. Mr. Festus Okoye, good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning.
We know these are trying times for the Independent National Electoral Commission, but can you once again reassure Nigerians that in another 4 days, come Saturday, the 23rd, that we will have elections here in the country and around the several wards and around the several polling units?
Yeah, I want to assure the Nigerian people that Saturday is a reality, and that Saturday is sacrosanct, and that we are going to have elections on Saturday. Both the Nigerian people and the Independent National Electoral Commission have put the disappointment of the past behind, and we are looking forward to Saturday with a lot of optimism and with a lot of hope. The Independent National Electoral Commission has mapped out a very clear plan of action on what to do to realize the intendments of February 23rd, 2019. And as you know, we have engaged in what we call reverse logistics. All the sensitive materials that were moved to the various local governments preparatory to the 16th February elections have been reversed back to the central bank in all the states of the Federation. So what we are doing now is just to audit all the materials that have been reversed and returned to make sure that there are no shortfalls. Secondly, all the smart card readers that were programmed for the 16 February elections have all been returned to the state offices of the Independent National Electoral Commission. And we are confident that by tomorrow, being Wednesday, we are going to complete the reconfiguration of all the smart card readers and get them ready for the February 23rd, 2019 elections. And every other material, in terms of non-sensitive materials, are still in the various local governments, and we don't have any challenge with them. So we are following a clear program of action to realize the intendments of February 23rd, 2019.
Yes, Mr. Okoye, please bring us to speed specifically. Can we not say all sensitive materials are in the right state as in destination? Two, that yes, the smart card readers can be reconfigured. INEC chairman said 5 days. You need 5 days to do that. Specifically, where are we? When can we say it has been completed?
All the sensitive materials that were moved to the various local governments preparatory to these elections have all been returned to the central bank. And by Wednesday, they will begin another journey. By Wednesday and Thursday, they will begin another journey towards the local governments and towards the registration area centers before they get to the polling units. Secondly, we have 190,000 smart card readers, and 14,000 of these smart card readers and 11,000 of these smart card readers are in Lagos and in Kano. In the other states, by tomorrow, they will complete all the configuration. And we're also confident that by tomorrow, both Lagos and Abuja will have completed the reconfiguration of all the smart card readers. And these are the two critical things that are required for this particular election. In relation to these two critical things, we are good to go. Wherever there's any minor shortfall in any of the states in terms of the sensitive materials, we have the capacity to deal with those shortfalls within a period of 1 day. So we don't have any challenge relating to the sensitive materials, and we don't also have any challenge as at now relating to the reconfiguration of the smart card readers, because by tomorrow we will be done with the reconfiguration of the smart card readers, and then we will now prepare the registration area centers where the ad hoc staff will be housed preparatory to being deployed to the various polling units on Saturday. So in terms of the receipt of the sensitive materials, we are good to go. In terms of the reconfiguration of the smart card readers, we are also doing well in that respect.
Mr. Festus Okoye, you know, you sat in that same chair about a week ago or so to assure Nigerians that you're good to go. One wonders what makes this assurance different and why Nigerians should take it wholeheartedly. But let me ask you about the retrieving and the reconfiguration you talked about and auditing. Who is auditing these retrieved sensitive materials? We know that the main opposition party had suggested some international firms to audit. And there's also the allegation of those materials that were sorted in some states before the election was postponed. What is the assurance that unscrupulous political actors don't replicate such materials going into this election?
These materials that we are talking about were moved from the votes of the central bank to the various local governments under heavy security. And they were also returned from the various local governments back to the votes of the central bank under heavy security. And the representatives of the political parties were part of the movement of these materials from the central bank to the local governments. And they are also part of the movement, or they were also part of the movement back from the local governments to the central bank. Now, despite everything that has happened, the auditing of the materials that have been returned is the sole responsibility of the Independent National Electoral Commission. We, as a commission, we want to know whether there are shortfalls in terms of the materials that we want to use for the elections. No international organization or any other individual is allowed to get near the sensitive materials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, other than the Independent National Electoral Commission and the central bank. The responsibility of political parties is to observe the movement of these materials on election day out of the vote of the central bank. They have the responsibility, they have the right to take the serial number of these materials, accompany these materials to the local governments, accompany these materials to the registration area centers, and also accompany these materials to the polling units. So we cannot allow other individuals to come and play a role that they are not constitutionally and statutorily allowed to play. That is one. Secondly, all the smart card readers that will be used for the Saturday election we will finish the reconfiguration of all the smart card readers by tomorrow. So the sensitive materials are ready. The smart card readers will be ready tomorrow. The only thing that will be remaining is what we call rack preparation and moving the ad hoc staff back to the registration area centers and giving them some refresher training so that they will be good to go on Saturday. So we are good to go in relation to this particular election. I realize the disappointment of the Nigerian people with what happened on the 16th. By even up to Friday night, the commission was still confident that it could pull off this election. But we considered starting in some polling units, elections may start at 8 o'clock and start at 11 in some other polling units. And we did not want that type of situation. And then we wanted to move it to Monday, but our ICT people advised us that all the smart card readers were configured to we are configured to 8 a.m. on Saturday morning, and they will open at 8 a.m., take their bearing from the various network providers and take their location from the various network providers, and also shut down at a particular time. So it was very, very difficult for us to proceed with this election on Monday. So that was why we shifted it to Saturday to make sure that we have everything on board.
All right, Mr. Okoye, we would like to know, amongst the 84 million registered Nigerian voters, how many people have collected their PVC till now? As we build up to the elections, we're not sure of how many people have collected their PVCs. And will the PVC collection still be made open to those who haven't collected it in the window that was actually made for them?
You know, the PVCs were being collected by registered voters at the various local governments. We have stopped the PVC collection And all the various local governments, the 774 local governments in Nigeria, have returned their PVCs to their various states. And in some of the states, the resident electoral commissioners have given a breakdown of PVCs collected and PVCs that have not been collected. And we have promised the Nigerian people that all the uncollected PVCs will be put together and deposited in the safe custody of the central bank. So in some of the states of the Federation, the resident electoral commissioners have given a figure that has been collected and the figure that has not been collected. It's possible that between today and tomorrow, I can harvest all the figures of uncollected PVCs throughout the Federation and then make it available to the Nigerian people. But later today, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission will give an update of the preparations of the Independent National Electoral Commission. And there's a possibility that if he has the figures, by the time we're addressing the press conference at 3 p.m. today, that he will make it available to the Nigerian people.
Mr. Okoye, you talked about the independence of the Commission to audit sensitive materials. There's the controversy over a particular company, Activate Technologies Limited, allegedly owned by a member of the APC and playing a major role in the sensitive materials, such as the card readers and the PVCs. What do you have to say to that? Can you also tell us if INEC RECs would be redeployed, because there are allegations, specifically in Akwa Ibom State, that the REC is conniving or is in collusion with the state governor?
Well, in terms of the first issue you raised, the information at my disposal is that the company in question has been working for the Independent National Electoral Commission since 2011. And we have at a personal level as a lawyer, I ran a check to look at the directors of this particular company and the individual in question. I didn't see the name of the individual in question as one of the directors of the company. But everything relating to the patent of the smart card readers and every other security issue involved in the smart card readers are domiciled with the Independent National Electoral Commission. Moreover, the configuration and reconfiguration of the smart card reader is being done exclusively by a technical staff of the Independent National Electoral Commission. So the configuration and reconfiguration of the smart card readers are being done by the Independent National Electoral Commission with no assistance from any external body, and that is it. In relation to your second question, the appointment and removal of resident electoral commissioners is the exclusive preserve of both the National Council of States, the President, and the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Their deployment or redeployment is within the purview of the Independent National Electoral Commission or the National Commissioners. I do not think that we have the time and the energy at this point in time to begin to move or remove any resident electoral commissioner that is preparing for elections on Saturday. It was maybe our challenge in relation to February 16th occurred because we removed our eyes on the ball and we are dealing with some issues that had nothing to do with logistics, issues around the burning of INEC offices, burning of smart card readers, and so on and so forth, and we removed our eyes from the ball. We will not remove our eyes from the ball at this point in time, and if we receive any concrete evidence relating to any resident electoral commissioner, then the commission will look at it. But in terms of political parties, politicians addressing press conferences and making one allegation or the other, the commission will not act on allegations made on the pages of newspapers or on radio or on television. We act on concrete allegations backed up by evidence. But as of today, we don't have any concrete allegation or evidence against any resident electoral commissioners, and they will remain on, at their duty posts and make sure that they deliver free, fair, and credible elections to the Nigerian people.
All right, Mr. Festus Okoye, a little follow-up to the last question. Yesterday, the APC chairman, talking about Adams Ali Oshomole, made an allegation against INEC that INEC is colluding with the PDP, and they gave the PDP forehand information about the postponement of the election. How do you address this? Okay, go ahead.
Honestly, as a Nigerian, as an individual, and as a public officer, I don't know which allegation we need to respond to. The PDP says that the commission is working for the APC. The APC says the commission is working for the PDP. So I don't know who we are working for. I want to assure the Nigerian people that every action we take is in the best interest of the nation, and that our determination is to put the disappointment of the past behind us and deliver an election that the Nigerian people will be proud of. We know that so many people went through pain, went through agony, lost huge sums of money, closed down their businesses, traveled long distances, and endured under inclement weather to exercise their democratic franchise. And we have apologized to the Nigerian people in relation to this. But going forward to Saturday, we have put all the disappointments behind us. Some of us, we are almost suffered psychological and emotional breakdown when we had to take the decision to postpone, to reschedule this election. But all those things are behind us now. The only thing that we are focused on is how do we deliver an election that the Nigerian people will look back and say, yes, we suffered disappointment, we were angry, but they have delivered on their mandate, and we are ready to move on as a nation and as a people.
Okay, Mr. Okoye. Well, the president also said that PDP got the information for postponement before the president. That came up at the APC caucus meeting yesterday. But that is not my question. Now, you had two committees. There is the Standing Committee on Operations and Logistics of INEC, headed by INEC Commissioner Okechukwu Ibianu. And you also have the head of the Ad Hoc Logistics Committee, headed by AVM Ahmed Muazu. Is this not, will these two committees not be working at cross purpose, and perhaps the roots of some of the confusion we saw leading to that February 16?
No, there was no confusion whatsoever. All the decisions of the Independent National Electoral Commission are taken collectively. Our determination was to deliver on elections, and different national commissioners were assigned different roles in relation to making sure that nothing went wrong. As with every human endeavor, we plan and we believe we planned well. But at the last moment, a few things did not work out in the way we programmed it, and that really accounts for the rescheduling of the elections. It had nothing to do with AVM Muazu being in charge of logistics and our colleague Professor Okechukwu Ibianu being in charge of electoral operations. All of us were working in harmony, and there was no dissension whatsoever relating to the beat assigned to each individual.
Please, Mr. Okoye, can you please clarify? We have information that the DSS, the Department of State Security, yes, we had these reports that the Directorate of State Security has invited INEC Commissioner Okechukwu Ibianu. Is this not interference? Because the Constitution states clearly that there should be no interference in the activities of the Independent National Electoral Commission. Are you aware of this, of the invitation?
Well, I'm not aware of this because I left the office yesterday around 7 p.m. And at 7 p.m. I was with Professor Okechukwu Ibianu at 7 p.m. yesterday. Unless that happened this morning, but I'm not aware because I saw him yesterday at 7 p.m. before I left the office.
Okay, because this news broke late last night and is already in some online publications. They already have that story. So perhaps you may need to confirm.
Yes, when I get to the office, I will confirm if anything of sort happened there. But as at now, I have not gone to the office this morning, and I'm not aware of any development last night, and nobody has briefed me of any new development.
Mr. Okoye, going back to allegations, why is it so difficult for the president and his party and some others to believe that this postponement was as a result of logistics and operational plans? The president says this would be investigated. In his words, he says we need to find out exactly what happened and who is responsible. Would the president be finding out otherwise after these investigations?
I will not sit here and engage in speculation of what may likely happen after the election. We have told the Nigerian people what led to the postponement or what led to the rescheduling. The Independent National Electoral Commission is a public institution, it's a public trust, and whatever we do should be in the public domain. If the Nigerian people says we should account for what led to the postponement, we will account. We have already accounted. We issued a statement immediately after we rescheduled the elections. The following day, the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission addressed all the critical stakeholders and also gave a further insight into what led to the postponement. Later today at 3 p.m., he will also address a press conference and also give a further insight into some of the challenges we face and the operational plans we have for delivering on our mandate on free, fair, and credible elections come Saturday. So we are a public trust, we're a public institution, and everything we do should be free, transparent and open. So, I think let me leave it at that.
I mean, trying to be transparent and open. I mean, we look at the statement the INEC chairman gave on Saturday. He talked about the weather. Yes. And he talked about the long haulage vehicles trying to make it to the destination, and that's why we had some of these challenges in arrival. But the National Airspace Management Agency, NAMA, yesterday made a statement that there was no disruption of flights from Friday to Saturday, and he did not understand what INEC was exactly talking about when he talked about disruption in flights and arrival because of the weather.
We are talking of hauling over, we are talking of hauling electoral materials for presidential elections, for senatorial elections, for the national, for House of Representative elections, and result sheets for all these elections from different parts of the world into the Federal Capital Territory, and they are being moved to other states. These materials were not hauled within a period of 2 days. These materials were coming in the past 1 week before February 16th. So the weather condition the chairman was talking about was not a weather condition of Thursday and Friday. And because AVM Mwazu was at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport throughout this particular period and was briefing the chairman and national commissioners almost on an hourly basis on what was going on. So there is no issue whatsoever relating to the information the chairman gave out and the other logistic challenges that the commission faced in hauling some of the materials by road and one of the vehicles breaking down along the way. So we are confident that we told the Nigerian people the truth. We gave out the information relating to the challenges we have, and we never misrepresented anything to the Nigerian people.
All right, Mr. Okoye, let me refer you back to a statement that one of my colleagues actually made, and then to follow up on that particular question about what the president said yesterday. As the chairman, Committee on Information and Voter Education, the president made several proclamations about the capital punishment being meted out to those who snatch ballot boxes. What are the penalties for any kind of electoral offenses? Can you state the electoral offenses, and what are the penalties for things like ballot snatching? What do they occur, and what is your what's your opinion about what the president said yesterday?
Honestly, I don't have any opinion. All I know is that we work within the ambit of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We work within the ambit of the Electoral Act, and we also work within the ambit of all the extant laws relating to the commission of criminal offenses in Nigeria. The penalty for every conceivable offense within the electoral framework are stated in the Electoral Act, and then there are also some penalties that are stated in both the penal code and the criminal code of the various states. All these things are put together in relation to the conduct of elections. So it depends on the offense anybody has committed, you can find any of those offenses within the framework of all these laws I have enumerated.
Okay, so as a lawyer, what does the Electoral Act state that are the penalties for some electoral offenses, especially ballot snatching?
But honestly, as a lawyer, I cannot offhandedly tell you the exact section of the law or the exact penalty for various categories of offenses. But you know, sometimes the issue like vote buying, there's nothing like vote buying in the Electoral Act. We call it inducement in the Electoral Act. So I need to find out what's the Electoral Act talks about in terms of disruption of the electoral process. There are various issues around electoral offenses. There are issues relating to interfering with the electoral process, interfering with a presiding officer doing his or her work, trying to induce an electoral officer, negligent conduct by electoral officers, and so on and so forth, and disruption of the electoral process. So it depends on the exact word the Electoral Act has used in terms of electoral offenses. But there are also some offenses that are committed even within the principles of a polling unit that can be taken care of by the penal code and by the criminal code. So it depends on the specificity of each offense for you before you can make a determination on the penalty that is ascribed to that particular offense and the name the law has given or ascribed to that particular offense.
Okay, Mr. Okoye, still on logistics, the Nigerian Air Force received some flack for their own part in this confusion we saw last week, that some planes were recalled even when they were airborne with the INEC materials. And the Air Force had come out to say that INEC only approached the Nigerian Air Force 3 days before the election, and that INEC is the one that funds the operations. They are not the ones. So why was it that situation that just 3 days to the election that the Nigerian Air Force was approached to start moving materials across the country?
I think we should be slightly circumspect in believing everything that is dished out in the social media. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission has never blamed the Air Force for any of the logistic challenges we had. And no national commissioner has gone on air to say that the Air Force is responsible for some of the logistic problems we had. The issue is that the Independent National Electoral Commission has a pact with the Central Bank of Nigeria. When some of these materials arrive at the airport, the Central Bank and its officials, together with officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission, put heads together and move these materials from the airport to the vaults of the Central Bank in the various states of the Federation. And how these materials are moved, by what means they are moved, is within the exclusive purview of the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Independent National Electoral Commission. So there is a possibility that there were flight challenges and so on and so forth, but we have never blamed the Air Force for being responsible for some of these flight challenges we had in terms of moving electoral materials.
No, but how do we explain a situation? Materials meant for Edo landing in Enugu, materials for Delta State landing in Benin. How do we explain that? If you don't want to blame the Air Force.
Some of these materials were bashed in huge pallets. What we normally do is that we created hubs for some of these materials. The materials that are supposed to go to the south-south, we are supposed to land in Port Harcourt at the hub in Port Harcourt. Those we are going to Maiduguri and Kebbi and the rest of them, we are supposed to land at either in Maiduguri Airport or in Yola. Those that were supposed to be meant for the North Central, we are supposed to land at the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. But because some of these materials were huge, some of the aircrafts brought in these materials to the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, and they were in huge palace, and some of the aircrafts that were supposed to convey some of these materials could not convey these materials because of the huge nature of the pallets. And we couldn't break the pallets because these things are sensitive materials, and the moment you begin to break the pallets, you begin to give room for suspicion. So we had to devise alternative means of moving these pallets to the vaults of the central bank without breaking them, and some of these caused the delays we had.
Well, Mr. Festus Okoye, the INEC chairman had mentioned sabotage in his during his press conference, and you have also alluded to it during the course of this interview, when you said INEC took eyes off the ball to face other issues. Can you be specific about the sabotage you were referring to, or the INEC boss was referring to? And has the commission been able to establish if the sabotage were internal or external? Do you know if INEC players have a hand in all of this? There's also the situation of ad hoc staff. The INEC boss had mentioned that they will be retrained before these elections, but there's the issue of their welfare. We saw a lot of pictures, inhumane conditions they were being subjected to. Has that also been covered going into these elections?
Well, in terms of your first question, you know that before this particular election, the INEC office in Isialangwa was burnt, and all the non-sensitive materials that had already been delivered and procured for the conduct of this election was also burnt in that particular inferno. The police and other security agencies are still conducting their investigations, and the police have made some arrests. And then, as if that was not enough, we also had the INEC office in Kwampam in Plateau State burnt, and with all the non-sensitive materials already procured for the conduct of the elections going up in flames. The police have also made arrests and are also conducting their investigation. And then, as we were dealing with some of these things, we also lost over 4,695 smart card readers in our office in Awka in Anambra State. And you know, to procure one smart card reader takes us 6 months. So we had to begin to scamper around to see where we can harvest some redundancies in order to make up for the burnt smart card readers in Anambra State. The police have also made some arrests and are also carrying out some investigation. So it was a combination of some of these things and logistic challenges that prevented us from conducting this election on the 16th. But as I say, we put the disappointment of that particular period behind us, and I'm sure, and I've listened to a lot of Nigerians who have urged us to move on and give them a good election and leave the disappointment of the past behind. In relation to the ad hoc staff, we take the welfare and condition of all the ad hoc staff very seriously, because these are young men and women who have, in the past, served this country diligently. The challenge we had was that we are supposed to be moved to the racks, what we call registration area centers, from where they will move to the polling units on election day. In the registration area centers, we have provided GP tanks for water, we've provided buckets, in some places we provided mattresses, in some places we provided mats and disinfectants and some other things that we make them slightly comfortable before they move to the registration area, before they move to the polling units. But the challenge was that some of them could not move to the racks. They remain at the local government offices of the commission because of the uncertainty on whether elections will take place or not. We regret all the inconveniences they went through, and we assure them that going forward, all those challenges will not reoccur again, and that their welfare will be properly taken care of, and that there was no predetermined plan to dehumanize them or make them stay in very inclement weather and under very terrible conditions.
All right, Mr. Festus Okoye, what is your commission doing, or more specific, what is your committee doing? Because as we have seen the trends over the last cycles of elections, all right, the level of voter apathy is actually on the rise. People are not showing up for elections. People are not showing up to vote. Last election, the 2015 election, was the lowest turnout we've ever had in this Fourth Republic, the lowest since 1999. And with this postponement, would it even become more catastrophic that we might see the least number of voter turnout that has ever been recorded in the history of Nigeria elections?
Well, I don't have the figures in relation to the level of voter turnout in previous elections. But I have said, and I want to repeat, that the Nigerian people should put the disappointment of the past behind them and move forward in relation to this election. The choice that was before us in terms of going ahead with the election on the 16th day of February was go ahead with this particular election, do a wishy-washy election, and then throw the country into confusion and into anarchy. And the consequences, only God knows, will have been catastrophic. Or take the bullet, take the shame, take the blame, and then have a second chance and conduct an election that the Nigerian people will be proud of. I really believe that the Nigerian people have taken the disappointment and have put the disappointment behind them, and we urge them to rekindle their patriotic instinct, rekindle their faith in the electoral process, rekindle their faith in the commission, rekindle their faith in the nation, and come out en masse to exercise their democratic franchise, because it is through exercising our democratic franchise that we can make a good determination on having good governance and having good leaders. So I believe that we will have a good turnout in this particular election, because the Nigerian people have embrace democracy and democratic practices, and are ready to live in a democratic system or under a democratic system of government.
Yes, I like the way you put it there, Mr. Okoye, taking the blame, taking the shame, but going to do the right thing. Now, it has been reported that INEC was under pressure. The INEC chairman was under pressure to go on with the election with a view to achieving staggered polls, which created the impression that there was some deliberate mix-up or modeling of the process in order to achieve this staggered polls situation. What do you have to say about that?
The issue of staggering the election was never in the cards. The issue of staggering the elections was never on the table. The only thing that was on the table on Friday throughout our meeting was going ahead with this particular election. The challenge we had was, if we decided to go ahead with the elections, some polls were going to open at 8, some were going to open at 10, and some were going to open at 12 midnight. And that was the only staggering that was on the table. And all the commissioners were united on the fact that we cannot stagger the time of the opening of polls, because some of the polling units are inside the forest. Some polling units are in places that you cannot remain after 6 p.m. in the night. And some polling units are in dangerous places, in riverine areas, in hilly places, and in remote places. So we said, if we stagger this, the opening of poll, and then sorting and counting finishes around 12 midnight, we cannot guarantee the safety of ad hoc staff. We cannot even also guarantee even the safety of security agencies that will be inside the forest, will be inside very places that are not really and readily accessible. So that was what was in the cast. And we discountenanced it and insisted, and the chairman insisted, that if we must go on, and all the national commissioners agreed, if we must go on, polls must open in every part of Nigeria at the same time. So the issue of staggering the polls was not in the cards. The only thing that we considered was differential opening of polls, which we dismissed and said that it was not politically correct and that it was going to create more confusion, give us a political baggage that we cannot carry. So we discountenanced it. So there was no issue of pressure from anybody. The decision we took was a collective decision to reschedule this particular election and get it right, rather than go ahead and also throw the country into confusion.
Mr. Okoye, we know you're a very busy man at this time, and so my next question, I'll require a yes or no answer. It's 3 days to go to the rescheduled date, but if all stakeholders came together and gave the commission more time just to get it right, would the commission agree?
No. We are going ahead with this election. We are ready for this election.
Great. Many thanks.
All right, I want to say a very, very big thank you for obliging us this morning. All right, we'll be speaking to the INEC National Commissioner and Chairman, Committee on Information and Voter Education, Mr. Festus Okoye from Abuja.